Hello, everybody. Happy Sunday. Ed Carbajal here for MMAnews.com. This is your Sunday submission for July 25th. It's the Sunday after the UFC Vegas 32 and BKFC 19. So we'll be looking back at all those events and what happened through, the weekend. Make sure you click the bell notification, thumbs up button on the YouTube channel over at MMAnews.com, where these videos live. We have interviews with Michael Chiesa, AJ McKee, who's fighting this coming Friday. Chiesa's on UFC 265. And Aspen Ladd, who was supposed to fight last night, but her opponent had to withdraw due to injury. I think it was like Thursday or Friday. It was originally a 13-fight card for UFC Vegas 32. And I know one fight was withdrawn for COVID protocols. They pushed it back for either this coming weekend or the week after. And then last minute, we lost that fight. Excuse me. So we have those for your viewing pleasure over at the MMAnews.com YouTube channel. So if you're not following, please do. I am Ed Carbajal. You can follow me on Twitter at Carbazel. And let's get going with the Sunday submission for MMAnews.com. So we'll start with Friday, BKFC 19. It was a big deal because it was a rematch under the bare knuckle rules for Paige VanZant, Rachel Ostovich. Paige VanZant was the returning, I guess she was a senior person. I had her picked to win for this reason, because if you watched her when she made her BKFC debut, it wasn't until the later rounds that she seemed to start finding her way, with the way the fight was going and just getting used to the whole BKFC experience with the circular ring and fighting under that rule set with no gloves. She lost a decision. Sucks for her. And by the way, just a quick housekeeping note. I don't know what's going on. Yeah, I use StreamYard to do this, so I hope my audio's all right. I apologize if it isn't. I checked it. It's supposed to be pulling from this microphone. Checked it twice, but there's some interface updates on StreamYard, and I'll have to let them know after this. But I just noticed it Friday when I interviewed promoter Sean Merriman for another outlet. So I apologize if this sounds weird. But since I'm streaming to record, I don't want to check this. Plus I wanted to go live anyway on my own Twitter handle, because it's a lot of stuff to talk about. And I hope some people chime in while we're doing this. But so I had Paige VanZant picked to win because of her seniority, and she had the experience. But it looked like the power of self-belief counts for something with the way Ostovich, she was talking to her during the fight and just wanting to avenge the loss that she had to her from MMA. So, and plus they're both, let's put it out there. The Paige VanZant used it as a marketing thing herself. Come for the boobies, stay for the bare knuckle, or whatever it was. They're both beautiful women competing in a very, what's almost kind of like the weird in the combat sports world. Bare knuckle seems to be this weird, what's the word I'm looking for? It's just, I guess, the most taboo of the combat sports right now, because there's no gloves. But if you do your homework, you'll notice that you'll see there's as far as brain damage, head trauma, to the brain, not the face, obviously, because you get cut up. But on my own podcast, we've interviewed a lot of the bare knuckle guys, champion Joey Peltran, Chris Lytle, Sean Wheelock, who calls the events, and they kind of chimed in. And the reason why I know this stuff, great interviews, by the way, if you haven't checked that out. But it is for folks to compete in that versus boxing and even MMA for that matter with the lighter gloves. But protecting the hand kind of makes the power more damaging. So when it's not protected, folks aren't as hard as folks hit. Folks are in condition, their hands are not hitting as hard. So there's that. But Ostovich picks up the win in her BKFC debut. People are already talking about what's next for VanZant and things like that. Listen, that I became a fan of Paige VanZant not because of the Instagram stuff. I mean, yes, sure, she's hot. I'm not gonna, come on. Like, who we kidding? But I became a fan of Paige VanZant when she lost to Rose Namajunas. I forget the event. It had to be 2015 when they fought. I remember watching it on my laptop from a hotel room and on UFC Fight Pass. And she's not someone that's going to let a loss bring her down. We already have an article up over at MMAnews.com where maybe I'll bring that up so you can see the image. It's actually the top story right now on the website as so you can see this picture. And you can say what you want. Like, people will be like, oh, she's doing that for herself. Hey, if that's what you got to do to get your mind in a positive place, then, I don't see an issue with it. There she is. 2 middle fingers to her haters. I didn't read this. I'm still smiling. Stories full of setbacks and roadblocks, detours, but it's also filled with major comes back, peace in my soul, and grace that saved my life. I promise you this. I would endure this pain every day of my life over the pain of regret. I'm going to keep chasing my dreams one step at a time. 99% of the people on earth would not dare to do what I do. This story will be even better than my first, and if you haven't read my book before, click the link in my bio. That is real pain. This is just a bad chapter. And to anyone out there struggling, pain is only for a moment. The world may be dark and love to hate on you, but darkness does not drive out darkness. What did she say? But darkness does not drive out darkness. Only light can do that. So don't stop shining. Good stuff from Paige VanZant. And that's why I like her, man. I mean, that's the real, like, if I'm being real, she's married. I know I've interviewed her husband, who's a murderer. So I wouldn't even try to be all nasty and creepy, hashtag creeper. Because her husband's a super nice guy. There's a reason why they're such a great couple. But that's just such a great mindset to have, especially when you lose. And I know I've said this before on Sunday Submission. Losses are lessons, especially when you're in martial arts and competitive, whether it be in the training room, competition. If someone is tapping you and stuff like that with stuff you haven't seen before, it should reignite your flair to want to, be insightful and learn more about why it happens so you can figure it out. So she's definitely taken, I mean, that's in her mindset that makes her a martial artist in my book. So congratulations to both ladies for putting on a show Friday night. For combat sports, that was probably one of the top trending sports. So they're doing something, and they've definitely earned their money. So on to Saturday night with UFC Vegas 32. So this was probably one of my most favorite UFC cards in recent, like, UFC Fight Night history. Sometimes these cards get like some hate when they're on ESPN Plus, or if it's not a lot of like well-known fighters. I mean, there was a lot of bantamweights on this card, and I think it showcased what the bantamweight division is bringing to the table as far as if they just re-upload AJ McKee interview. Looks like it. Sorry, I just got the alert. But anyway, I plugged that anyway at the beginning. This was like the hardcore. If you're a longtime hardcore MMA fan and you looked at the names on these cards, you were all in. Even with the losing the COVID protocol fight that they lost early in the week, and the Aspen Ladd fight because her opponent, I'm sorry, I forgot her opponent's name. She withdrew due to injury. Aspen Ladd clarified that on her own Instagram when the UFC made the announcement, because they didn't say who was injured. So she was like, it wasn't me. So great card if you like MMA and you like high paced fighting. The lighter weights, bantamweight division last night. I mean, Bellator has always had a strong 135 division, and I think, with the Brandon Moreno on the flyweights, I think we're starting to see that these lighter guys bring more action and crazy scrambles, and we saw all of that last night. There's definitely Fight of the Year contender that came out of this event. So I do know we have some highlights up on the website, so let me bring that up for you. And of course, you know, you can't have a UFC event without some questionable judging for stuff that went to decision. So we're going to talk about all that. All right. Here we go. I think the first one came out of this fight here with Macie Barber and Miranda Maverick. And this is a fight where an example, and we see so she was coming off of losses, so that she really took the win to heart. One of the things that stood out to me, because it came, I'm just bringing up the full bout listing so we could look at it. So from this fight here, the main event, Corey Sandhagen, something he did, and then there's something in this fight where we saw the tide change between Maverick and Barber, because so there's a lot of folks, especially with that women's flyweight bout. I think that's where it started. A lot of folks that, if you go to MMA decisions, like a lot of MMA media, a lot of folks, even Daniel Cormier said during the broadcast that he disagreed with the judge's decision. There's a lot of shade being thrown at the judges that night. If you follow me on Twitter, I was putting the cards out, giving my takes. But the this fight, so in the first round between Barber and Maverick, I noticed, so Barber was moving backward a lot, but she was countering. So but if you've been watching MMA long enough, you know that control pressure, those are the things judges look at. So if a fighter's moving backward while one is moving forward and attacking, usually that's the fighter that's going to win the favor of the judges. Maverick did that in the first round, but I mean, I think in my opinion, Barber was countering more as she was coming at her, but still, if you're moving backwards most of the time, unless, you know, there's a lot of fights we could bring up where you know, favoritism and maybe the crowd influence decisions or what have you. But you know, this was in the Apex. Not a lot of folks were in there. There were folks in there. Speaking of which, and I hate to bring this up, but I got to bring it up. The Clark County. I don't know if the Apex is in Clark County. I would think it's in Vegas, so it should be. But you know, they put up a mandate where all the employees had to wear masks. I didn't see a lot of masks, and I'm not trying to get the don't start hating on me, because I know we got the maskers in the end. I'm just pointing out an observation that I was like, huh, you know, I thought the employees had to wear masks, but hey, maybe that was just for the casinos. But anyway, back to the fight. So Barber was countering a lot as Maverick was coming in. And then I think when Barber started like feeling like the decision might not go her way, she turned it up, and then it got to the point that they were just running into each other and clashing and going against the fence and stuff like that. But I feel like as far as counter striking, Barber did better in that sense. And for all the folks that feel that Miranda Maverick, you know, was on this got robbed, she put it out there herself this morning on her own social media that she felt like she didn't do enough in the third round, or somehow she started falling short in the fight, and that's kind of why she's, you know, accepting the loss as it came, and not that she got robbed. But you know, if you look at the scorecards, I forget who was. I mean, I don't remember if it was Sal D'Amato or Chris Lee or the one that was catching a lot of shade last night. I mean, they didn't mention names, but I know Daniel Cormier was calling out the judging too, and it was you know, that's a hot topic trending on the social this morning of the stuff, Cormier's honesty about how he felt about what the judging was going on. But you know, there's all these folks that say, you know, that's why you don't leave it to the judges. But when you get two tough folks in there, just like Barber and Maverick, you know, it's hard to not leave it to the judges, because you know, no one is going to go down easily, you know, without a fight. I mean, we saw that even with this bantamweight bout here between Adrian Yanez and Randy Costa. I think we have that up here. Let me play that for you so you can look at the finished in round 2. I mean, the funny thing was round 1, which we don't have on here. That's the finish from Yanez when he beat Costa. That was the whole Reese's versus Dr. Pepper marketed fight that they did themselves. I think Dr. Pepper sent something to Yanez. But Randy Costa deserves a big fat pack of Reese's too, because of the way he came out in round 1. You saw Yanez wasn't. I mean, if you look again here, you can see Costa's damage, but as he walks away, the damage you see on Yanez is from the first round. And Costa came out. I mean, I was actually, I know in my official picks that I submitted over at SureDog, I believe I picked Yanez to win, and I was nervous in the first round that it wasn't going to happen. But, you know, more proof of why the whole bantamweight division is probably the new hotness of the sport of mixed martial arts. But great finish by them. I mean, great fight overall between those two guys. Do we have? This is the this is Darren Elkins just literally this fight. I mean, I'm laughing because we have all this. Yeah, look at all this. Let's see if we can play this. This is Minner probably put almost like, look at that. I mean, I would have tapped from that. His arm looks bent and painful. Darren Elkins, the damage. That's why they call him the damage, because he seems to take a lot before he. It's almost like he lets their opponents exhaust themselves into a loss. And that's not the only submission that he went for. There's a lot of really cool stuff that. I mean, that's the triangle, and then he transitions to the armbar. And there was a couple of other moments before that. There's the first exchange. He tries to do the front choke, which is like a ninja choke. I mean, there was just so many moments where it was like, man, he's gonna near submissions, a lot of near submissions in that fight, and it didn't pan out for him even after all that hard work. Elkins earned his name to damage, and this is the finish right here. We might as well play it since we're talking about it. I keep muting it because I don't want us to get hit copyright hits, but it's on the MMAnews.com website for you to check with the results. Look at all the damage he took just to get that win. I mean, it was clear exhaustion on Minner. It just looked like he tried so much that he got him like mounted crucifix, and then got to his back because he was taking a lot of damage from there, and he already looked exhausted. And when he got off the mounted crucifix, he turned over to this position, and it was just like that was it for him. Crazy fight, a lot of great fights. And speaking of which I'm trying to see, I don't think we have any highlights from it on here. No. David Michaud, who retired because of like medical reasons, who fought over at the PFL. He let us know that this fight here, William Paiva versus Kyler Phillips, which was another one that people were like, what's going on with these judges? Because there's a 28-28 you can see. This fight was so close that it damn well could have been a draw, because both men, you have to watch this fight. To me, it's a fight of the year contender. It was from this whole, I believe they picked up a bonus off of this card. Kyler Phillips, first round, some of the second round, came out with a lot of like crazy, just scrambles, submissions, strikes, all you could think of. And there's a point where I thought Paiva was going to lose, and then Paiva comes back with these straight right hands that seemed to rock Phillips as he was exhausted in the later rounds. So it's almost like another comeback victory coming, just kind of like the way it happened with Barber and Maverick, because the beginning it looked like Barber was in trouble, and then she just kind of turned it up, and it was just like the theme of the night, to be honest with you. And this fight was just really under the radar. It was on ESPN. So if you recorded it, it was on a fairly early card. The first bell was at 4 p.m. My time, Eastern time. So fairly early card. So if you didn't catch that, I mean, I highly recommend that you I'm probably going to rewatch it. But I mentioned David Michaud before I started talking about it because he tweeted out, was just like, get ready for something along the line, like get ready for some ninja stuff or whatever. And I shared it because I was like, all right. Usually when another fighter like praises another fighter that's on the come up that not a lot of folks know them, that's something to be aware of. And he was right, man, because this fight was, of all the fights on here that were on my radar, this wasn't one of them. But I mean, both of these guys I mean, especially, I mean, the stuff that Phillips was doing was pretty amazing. Like, not for nothing, both of their stock rose in that fight. Excuse me. And I think the same can be said with the main event. With these last 10 minutes, we'll talk about that. Between TJ Dillashaw and Corey Sandhagen. So the 5-rounder, I don't think we have any highlights from that on here. 5-rounder. It's too bad because there was a leg lock that I wanted to look at that Daniel Cormier was talking about. Somebody went for a leg lock earlier. It might have been the Phillips Paiva fight, but someone went for a leg lock and was on the bad end of it. I think it was in the first round that Sandhagen went for cross of belly heel hook on Dillashaw, and he torqued it, but you know, he took a lot of shots to the face when he was going for it, and the Dillashaw was concerned about his knee in the corner, and it was something that everybody was watching as the fight kept going. The reason why you know, Dillashaw won was because he moved forward and he kept coming at Sandhagen, and Sandhagen, who was a taller, you know, he had a reach advantage. I mean, you can see the damage on TJ Dillashaw's face. It's all over the social. He had a cut right here that almost stopped the fight. So there's a lot of people that thought Sandhagen won that fight too. So, and this is where I'm bringing it up because to get back to the judging, like we saw the judging issue with the Barber Maverick fight, where I talked about moving backward. This is one of those cases where the backward, even though Elkins took less damage, you know, he was backing up a lot and countering using his reach, which is a smart way to win the fight. What's the official? Did we have it on here? That was a decision. I want to get down to those numbers. 47-48, 48-47, and 48-47. So somebody took that into account and scored against those Dillashaw. So it was another split decision. But again, so Sandhagen doing the things, you have to wonder the judges' like experience. I remember one time, it was on Twitter years ago. I might have mentioned this on here too before, but I went back and forth with the great Renzo Gracie about how there's a lot of officiating and officials in this sport, which is fairly young compared to boxing. So these guys come over from boxing and they don't understand when someone's on their back, they can be attacking and be aggressive. You know, they just see that someone's on top and someone's on their back, and so the person on top is going to get the favoring for the scoring. And it might even say that in the official rule set. You'd have to look them up under them, depending on the rule set, where they're, you know, that they're using them, you know, who's using them or what have you. But it's one of those things where backward motion, being on your back, stuff like that will score against you. And Sandhagen went for the leg lock, and he took some shots and paid for it. So by that right there, even though he was attacking, he got punched in the face with a man on top of him. So that's a score against him to the untrained eye, or, you know, depending on what you're looking for. If you're like a leg lock person, you'll notice something like that, and you'd be like, you know, I'll score for him because he's attacking from the bottom. So it's just one of those things. It's the reason why you hear folks say, I'm glad I'm not a judge, right? So that's what happened. I think that's a lot of what happened. You know, you can wonder about this state by state comparison or whatever, like which states are more experienced in judging mixed martial arts competition and which ones that aren't. But you know, yeah, that's why again, leaving it to the judges is probably not a good idea. I was hoping this one would not go to the judges because of that's what happened afterward. There was even newer fans to the sport that were chiming in on social media afterwards. Even I contribute at 137 p.m., so I follow Gary V and all those guys, and they even watched it. Vayner Sports, Gary Vaynerchuk, they watched it and they were even like, "No, how does this happen? Like, look at them. Sandhagen is the clear winner." And if you're a student of the game, counterpunching stuff like that, I can see how you could score for Sandhagen too. But overall, again, this was probably one of the most exciting mixed martial arts cards the UFC has put on. They deserve a hat tip for doing that, and so tip of the hat to the UFC for putting on a really great card, even with losing a fight to COVID protocols and an injury and stuff like that. It was a really good event, and the thing is the damage. So I know we'll probably won't know till Monday, Tuesday, but the damage we don't know what happened to Dillashaw's knee. That cuts super deep on a really bad part of the eye. I know he said he wants the winner of Jan Sterling, which is booked for October, and he wants to get back in there as soon as September or October. But if he took some damage, it's probably going to be a little while before we see Dillashaw fighting again. But and then I see a lot of folks giving him a pass for the the EPO, the PED. He sat out, he did his time. He looks better. I mean, that was him trying to. I think in the promo thing they said in his attempt for greatness, he just got. I guess he wanted to made a bad decision. Folks make mistakes, and if it's in the past and they're doing what they can to rectify them, then it's time to look past that and see what's coming, be present and see what's coming ahead for them. So I think the return of TJ Dillashaw might make for as exciting as it already is with all these fights we just looked at. There's some interesting fights to make there. I see Cody Garbrandt wants another shot at Dillashaw too. So there's a lot of stuff there for the UFC to play with. But time will tell for that as we head into another week. This is the last week of July. Crazy how time is passing. What a fast summer. I feel like I haven't done anything with myself, but hopefully you guys have. Listen, we're going into another action-packed weekend with Bellator coming up, Bellator 263, and then on Saturdays, another UFC fight night. Uriah Hall and Sean Strickland are the main event. So we got another doubleheader coming up. Lots of great fights to look forward to. This Bellator event, it's the Grand Prix. AJ McKee versus Patricio Pitbull, because there's two Pitbulls. I got to make sure I get the right one. For the featherweight title. All the marbles. It's taken a long time to get through this Grand Prix in particular, because when it started, I was in New York the week the pandemic was declared, March 9th, myself and the great Fernando Quiles, who's been on the Sunday Submission with me to look at stuff. We were there on a Monday to cover the event, and that midweek, everything went south, and so it's long time coming for this one. It'll be on Showtime. MMA News will have the fight card and the details as we approach Friday, as well as all the UFC news that you want to look for. That's it for me. Make sure you check out those interviews. Again, AJ McKee, he's second generation martial artist. Against probably one of the greatest. He's Pitbull is a champ over at Bellator 145, 155. It's probably going to be. It's going to be. I really cannot predict who's going to win that fight. I'm going to go into detail. We're going to look at that card super deep. Me and Matt Hawkins over at Coast to Coast Combat Hour on Tuesday. So if you're not checking out my podcast, make sure you do. If you don't know where to follow it, you can follow me on Twitter at Carbazel. But we'll have all the news for all the UFC and Bellator stuff coming this week over at MMAnews.com. Thank you again for those that watch this as I streamed it live. Make sure you thumbs up, click the bell notification, keep an eye on those fights, but especially, I mean, open your, open your options. There's a lot going out there, not just with the UFC. Sports is coming back. Stuff is going on in California. I talked to Sean Merriman on Friday. The Lights Out Extreme Fighting is getting their ball rolling again. It's going to be a good time. It's going to be a good time as we close out 2021. So let's have some fun. That's it for me. I'm tapping out. Thank you. That's the Sunday Submission. Peace.